Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fadwa Wazwaz, and as I'm transitioning to the next theme, I mentioned briefly on my webpage on Facebook. Actually, first, I mentioned that coming theme again will be beauty of faith beyond placebo joy and the tactics of Satan. And I also mentioned that it's essential to recognize one key component that separates reason from rationalization is humility. Humility beautifies everything inside and out. I don't think I'm sharing. Okay. It's essential to recognize one key component that separates reason from rationalization is humility. Humility beautifies everything inside out. As I mentioned in the video, clearly God does not change the condition of a people till they change what is within themselves. And what is within, turn to God. He helps you to remove what is not pure and to embrace what is pure out of his grace from him. Humility beautifies, again, inside out, whereas rationalization attempts to play with people's perception, make them see what is ugly as beautiful, foolishness as reasonable, false as true, through cade, or sinful cunning games, as the magicians, for example, did when they met Moses, on and peace, or the Samari did. Now, there's a key distinction between the magicians and a Samari. And this distinction is best noticed here. I mentioned it here. Not to know is bad. Not to wish to know is much worse. The key distinction between the magicians and a Samari, even though they were both playing with people's perception, is the magicians were acting out of ignorance, you might say, and compulsion. They were afraid of the Pharaoh. They mentioned that when they received faith, because then they were willing to be persecuted for truth. So when they were threatened that they were going to be persecuted, they were not afraid of the Pharaoh. So they went from ignorance, compulsion due to fear, into then honorable witnesses for God, for truth, and helping message of Moses. A Samari, though, acted upon playing with people's perceptions and playing mind games with the knowledge of what the truth is. He saw and experienced Moses meet Pharaoh, the magicians accept the truth, standing up for truth. He also saw and witnessed Pharaoh and the entire soldiers destroyed before his eyes. So he saw that as they went through the Red Sea. This incident happens after they crossed the Red Sea. So he was acting out of knowledge. This is where arrogance comes in. You know the truth, you witnessed it even, but you're acting out of arrogance, is that you cover the truth or you deny it. As for Satan, he had already led astray many of you. Could you not then use your reason? So people who are arrogant don't use their reason. They play with people's perceptions to make them see, as I mentioned, falsehood as true. A scholarly commentary that you've been deprived of reason and you had served your enemy instead of your Lord, you could have the reason to offer an excuse. One could say if you were ignorant, as the magicians were, or if you were you faced this compulsion of fear, because tyrants, what do? They use fear. They'll say, we'll do this. Some people are saying, we'll take away your citizenship, throw you in Gaza and bomb you. They'll make all of these fear tactics. This is what we will do to you if you don't submit to the truth that we want you to believe in. In fact, we're all blessed with reason. We're all blessed, with brains by Allah. And we use it to the advantage in all affairs of the world, which is people who, for example, are arrogant. They've been warned by Allah through the prophets as well. Yet, when you were deceived by your enemy and he succeeded in leading you astray, you could not be excused from the responsibility of your fault. So the magicians were excused. They were educated, they were nurtured, and they actually received the light from Moses and ended up becoming honorable witnesses. As-Samiri did not, out of arrogance. As we are witnessing genocides happen, not because people don't know, but because people don't want to know. Why? It's more profitable and self-serving to not know and drink the Kool-Aid. Falsehood spreads through money, truth through sacrifice. So I gave some examples of this. I like to sometimes, whenever I make points, we're being taught to see the genocide that we are witnessing live is self-defense. We are being told this is self-defense. And if you don't agree that the genocide, which is the death of children, the killing, thousands of individuals, is not genocide, then we will harm you and we will prison you and we will, they list a whole list of cocktail of ways that they're going to oppress you and persecute you if you refuse to drink the Kool-Aid and recognize what they want you to see is genocide, is self-defense. And so God, you could say, the way we see it is this is happening because God is exposing them to themselves and to everyone around them who was probably kind of like the magicians. They saw this powerful Pharaoh. Before, they were promoting themselves to the world as gatekeepers of humanity and democracy. And so Gaza exposed them as it was all a myth. There is no Western humanity or democracy. There is, you see what we want you to see, you accept the truth that we want you to accept, or you will be persecuted. And these are just some individuals that I'd like you to follow for some information. I have also here some highlights. But I would like to review one. So we're supposed to, for example,
conflict than have been killed in all armed conflicts globally every year. More children have been killed in this conflict than have been killed in all armed conflicts globally every year over the past 4 years.
Yeah, I know, Margaret. It sounds almost unbelievable when you say it out loud. And
it's horrific.
It is horrific, and it is. And people stop hearing, I think, when we hear all those numbers, thousands, and they forget that behind all those thousands, there is a child and their families behind it.
You said more children.
Well, again, we're being asked to see genocide as self-defense. And we're being persecuted if we don't recognize and accept that we're seeing is genocide. thousands of children are being killed, burned alive, vaporized, destroyed. Like there's no evidence of their existence. They're just vaporized, incinerated, shredded. We're asked to accept the interpretation that they want us to accept. They're going to shove it down our throats that this is self-defense. And if we say, well, we don't agree with your interpretation of what we're saying, this is genocide, they're threatening revenge, persecution, oppression, terrorism. That's what they're threatening. So we're accountable for all these civilians killed. And they want impunity for their criminal activity and call it that impunity freedom. And we're like, that's not freedom. That's impunity. And they're upset that we tell them in their face, that's not freedom. That's not free speech, that you're calling genocide self-defense. That's impunity for criminal activity. We are accountable for the civilians that are being killed daily, day by day, and now we are seeing in the West Bank. And it's been going on in the West Bank at a smaller scale before, while they were trying to destroy Gaza, and now they're taking on Gaza style. They're hoping to do the same thing in the West Bank. I want to take you to this individual who, again, it's the issue of how do you tell arrogance versus ignorance. So let's listen to this individual with her own perception.
Support for Ukraine. Do not argue for peace. They argue for appeasement and subjugation of Ukraine. So today I would like to address all those who, after 1,000 days of death and destruction, are asking sincerely, isn't it time for talks? It is first and foremost up to our Ukrainian friends to answer this question. We and them want the war to stop as soon as possible. But while many outside Europe are preoccupied only with the end of fighting, my position is that peace is not simply the absence of war. Peace is a settlement that makes war impossible and unnecessary. And therefore, we must put Ukraine in the condition of negotiating such peace, and this is why the integration of Ukraine in our European Union is for us at the heart of every peace effort.
So they know the truth.
Those who argue to stop support.
And the truth that she's pointing at is when an individual, like in restorative justice, when you're dealing with victim and offender, you have to put the victim in a position of support and solidarity that makes the offender, make it impossible for them to harm and hurt the victim again, that they are supposed to face that victim and that the conditions are now changed, the environment changes. And I'll discuss this more in detail when I get to that point in Prophet Joseph's story, where the conditions change. So she understands the truth. But out of arrogance, when it comes to apply this truth, that at an intellectual, moral level, she knows, she flips the script. Now, even though it's not, she's talking about 1,000 days. Palestinians have been fighting for 100 years. Colonization, the theft of their homeland, the ethnic cleansing of their homeland. And, you know, the occupation, however you want to refer to it, it's for 100 years they have been fighting. And those very same countries and people who will tell you, get up on stage and tell you, you have to put the oppressed in the condition to make war impossible, to make harming them impossible, are the same individuals who are arming, who are funding, who are providing diplomatic cover to Israelis as they invade, colonize, steal land, and annex settlements, and annex more land, and annex more land. They are the same individual. So it's, again, it's arrogance. They know the truth, but they knowingly cover it and play with your perception while doing so. So again, they know the truth. They don't want to grow. It's arrogance. They want to gain power, and they want you and I to be compelled. To be compelled. There is no room for us to disagree and say what we are witnessing and experiencing is genocide. They want us to force down our throats that genocide is self-defense. As I mentioned here, put Palestinians in such conditions to negotiate peace. Why are you resisting them being a state recognized in the UN security? Why are you, why did you fight brutally to not allow them to be accepted as a state, within the United Nations? So why are you fighting for 100 years, refusing to accept them as a body, as a state? Why are you not putting them in the condition where war is impossible? But you are arming their oppressors, their colonizers, their invaders, because Israel cannot be separated from them. Israel is their killing machine. They want their boot in the Middle East. And Israel was invented for the purpose of putting their boot in the Middle East and repurposing colonization as, the Holocaust, and because of the Holocaust and all of this humanity that they supposedly have for Jewish people. Stop pretending when you and your war criminals are pushed to stop engaging in crimes. Dump the arrogance. And this is for a different video that I'll discuss, but I would like to again take you to this last video. The truth is there. I can just take you. Oh, I didn't put it here. Let me check. I think I put it in here.
And I did the research, and I knew right away that the whole thing was false. That the narrative that the Arabs had been threatening to destroy Israel and so on, and attacked Israel, it was propaganda. It wasn't true. The reality was opposite. I could go on at great length about that. So by 67, I'd woken up and I'd researched it deeply. And I wrote an article for the student newspaper about how, this is actually what happened here. I was kicked out of my parents' home.
What? I didn't know this.
Well, look, my parents being Holocaust survivors, I was betraying the tribe. I was betraying my people. and I became persona non grata in the Jewish community. But
Wow.
I said to my father, Dad, it was in your house that I learned to love truth. I can't help it if you don't like the truth that I see. My dad, to his credit, despite what he had gone through in forced labor and what his family had gone through, in his 60s or 70s, I should say, joined a group that I helped to found, called Jews for a Just Peace.
Wow.
So that's unusual in a man his age. Then the 67 war happened.
So again, just to use his comment to his father, and I'm using it to the Western powers and the Western media. We can't help if you don't like the truth that we see. So your threats of doing this and this to us, we can't help if you don't like the truth that we see. We see genocide as clear as day. And we are not going to accept the mind games and the threats and the persecution compelling us to see a self-defense propaganda story. We can't help the truth that we see. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.